Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk about the 5 tips you should consider when you're choosing your first designer handbag. I've seen a lot of videos here on YouTube where a lot of people are talking about what the 5 top choices they would pick for their first designer handbag. But I think that's just very poor advice. Everyone's style is different, everyone's preferences are different. So I want to kind of talk about 5 general tips you should keep in mind before choosing your first designer handbag. The designer handbags are now more expensive than ever, and I'm sure in the future we're going to go through many more rounds of price increases moving forward. So it's more important that you kind of are careful with where you're spending your hard-earned money on. A lot of us don't have the means to buy everything we want to buy all the time. And when it comes down to buying luxury, it's a purchase that you look forward to and you save a lot of money before you go ahead and buy it. It being the first ever luxury handbag purchase, I think it kind of has a special meaning to you. You've been saving up and then can finally afford to buy one. So before you make that purchase, I feel like you have to be really careful about which one you pick. So hopefully you'll find this video helpful. And if you do, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first tip I have is to know your style. This kind of sounds like a no-brainer, but I kind of made this mistake when it came down to my first handbag. I ended up going for the Louis Vuitton favorite size. Back then, that was the only size that they had. What I had in mind before going into the boutique was that I wanted to get the Neverfull. That's the bag that I knew I would get a lot of use out of. It's a tote bag, and I've always been a girl who loves a tote bag, so I knew that I wanted to get a Neverfull. However, I ended up going to the boutique with my mom, and she really thought the Neverfull was kind of older look for me. I was 24 back then, and so I ended up going with her recommendation and picked something a little bit more casual, something I could wear more on a day-to-day basis. And if you look at my collection now, I no longer have the favorite However, the Neverfull I bought 3 or 4 years later, I still have it in my collection. So clearly, I should have gone with my choice, and what I knew the best was style I would get the most use out of, instead of going with somebody else's recommendation. So I think it's really important that you know what style you wear the most. If you're a top handle girl, don't buy a crossbody as your first bag. And if you know you're a shoulder bag girl, don't buy a top handle bag. So if you like the open tote style, just like Neverfull, don't go for a Speedy, and vice versa. And second tip is also a general tip from my experience. If you're not really familiar with the brand and don't know the materials or history or of why certain brands are more popular than the others, just think about what is very important to you. So it could be a person who really wants to have the logos on your bag. So good examples would be Louis Vuitton, Goyard, Gucci Canvas, and Fendi as well. They have some of the logo play going on in some of their bags. Or you are looking for a luxury designer handbag that really doesn't have a logo. A good example of this could be Celine. A lot of their bags don't have a lot of logos, even if they had Celine printed in a small print. Or Loewe, who also doesn't do a lot of logo play on their bags either. So if you're not really set on one brand, and if you're not sure what brand to go with, just think about what's important to you. Maybe a specific brand is important to you and you already have your mindset on it, but otherwise, if logo play is more important versus you are looking for more of a quality leather bag, that could impact your decision on which designer you decide to go with. And then the third tip I have kind of ties to my first tip. Do not let other people pick the item for you. And this is a mistake I made when I came down to choosing my first handbag. You know yourself the most. If you know already what you want, or if you have a mindset on one bag that really makes you excited and happy when you are looking at it or when you're trying it on, then you should go with your gut. Even if you're shopping with your mom or a friend, don't let them influence you into choosing one bag or the other. And then the fourth tip I have is to not choose a special occasion bag as your first designer bag. This is a bag that you've been saving up for a really long time, however long it might have been. I think it makes more sense for you to buy a bag that you could use as an everyday bag versus special occasion. So for example, if you have a choice between a shoulder bag or a crossbody bag that you could use every day versus buying a clutch that could be for a special occasion only, I recommend that you buy a bag that you could use every day and get the most bang for your buck versus buying just a special occasion bag. Now, I'm not saying they should never buy a special occasion designer bag. I'm interested in a few, and I think it's a nice investment to make. But as your first designer bag, you probably want to use it all the time. So that's why I'm saying don't choose a special occasion bag as your first designer bag, but go for the one that you know you'll get a lot of use out of. And the last and final tip I have is to go for the bag that you love, not the bag that fits in your budget. I have a good example from my past experience for this. I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe in 2019. I was looking for a bag that was kind of different from what I normally buy, and I had a certain amount of money saved up for it. And I ended up going for the Saint Laurent Louis camera bag. It was not a style that I normally go for. It was not a color that I normally go for, but it was just a bag that fit in the budget. I ended up really disliking that bag. A lot of people love and recommend that bag for other people, but it just did not work out for me because one, the color is just not the right choice. If it was in black, I would have kept it for a lot longer, but I ended up getting like the dusty gray. It had kind of like a nudish gray tone to it that I didn't really love. And it was just a crossbody bag. And in general, I don't like bags that are just crossbody. It has to have a different function, so like a top handle or a long shoulder bag kind of a function to it, but this bag didn't do any of those. And because I chose the bag to fit in the budget and I just didn't want to save or wait any longer, I ended up losing quite a bit of money on that bag. I lost several hundreds of dollars when I sold it. So this is a good example of why you shouldn't go for a bag that just fits in your budget. If I invested in a different bag that was maybe a little bit more expensive, that I knew would fit into my lifestyle better, for example, like the Push-In Matisse, then I would have kept it for a really, really long time, and I would have lost hundreds of dollars when I sold it back. So those are the 5 tips that I wanted to mention when it comes down to choosing your first designer handbag. I know it's a really exciting time, but also you can kind of feel the pressure of I have to choose the right bag the first time. It's okay for you to make some mistakes. I have bought a lot of bags, but I now only have 4 bags in my collection. So I've bought a lot more bags than that I sold in the past. You will learn over time that your style changes, your preferences change, and you'll learn something about your day-to-day style that you didn't know before. And it's normal for you to buy something and then sell and buy something new again. But I think if you kept these 5 tips in mind, it'll help you kind of buy the best bag that is really fitted and suited for you instead of just going for Louis Vuitton Neverfull, because that's what everyone tells you to buy. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.